A connecting principle linked to the invisible, almost imperceptible, something inexpressible. Science is so susceptible, logic so inflexible, causally connectable, nothing is invincible. That's the opening lyrics to a Police song, Synchronicity 1, off of their Synchronicity album, and it describes what synchronicity is fairly well. Synchronicity, very important thing for us INFJs and other intuitive types to notice, and can give us some great clues about what's going on in our mind or connections that we're trying to put together, patterns we're trying to recognize. But in order for synchronicity to be helpful, we have to know what it is and have to learn how to recognize it. The theory of synchronicity began with Carl Jung. He wrote a book called Synchronicity on it. I read bits of it for a psychology class I took 15 years ago. It's an interesting read. It's not the easiest read out there. I believe it's on Audible, but for the definitive information on synchronicity, read Jung's book. So what are synchronicities? Synchronicities are events connected to one another, not by strict cause and effect, but by meaning. In classical times, they were known as sympathies by the belief that an acasual relationship exists between events on the inside and outside of ourselves, and it is a crosswalk between mind and matter, what is governed by certain senses of attraction. Jung believed that synchronicities mirror deep psychological processes, carry messages in our mind the way dreams do, and take on meaning and provide guidance to a degree that they correspond to the emotional states of our inner experiences. I'll give some examples of that. If you're trying to decide to take action on a certain topic, you may notice the synchronicity pointing your mind or in the right direction, or helping you make an ultimate decision. Like if you're driving home from work, for example, and you've been suspecting for a little bit that maybe your girlfriend's cheating, and then out of the blue, right as this is running circles around your brain, a song like Found Out About You by Gin Blossoms comes on, which in my mind is like the definitive breakup song for males. You Ought to Know by Alanis Morissette's the ultimate female breakup song, and written by an INFJ. It also shows the fury of INFJ rage. So it can be a rather profound understanding when you first experience synchronicity, knowing what it is. It's more intuition, less intellect. It's more about inner life and emotional life and life of the senses. It's what Jung referred to as anima, and it can be considered the force of the feminine in a man's life. It's an archetype of powerful feminine energy, which can be compelled to be understood as synchronicity. Okay, a little hard to understand, but I relate that back to my witchcraft beliefs. And I mentioned the tarot before. The intuition card in the tarot is the moon card. It is a feminine card. Guys, whether we want to admit it or not, empathy and intuition are two qualities that are considered more feminine than male, and it's by no coincidence that amongst intuitive types, particularly INFJs and ENFJs, both of those types are more common in females than male, and it has also been described that INFJ males are very in tune with their feminine side. I know I am, and I don't care what people say about that. So, a synchronicity is a coincidence that is an analog in the psyche, and depending on how you understand it, it can inform you primarily through intuition and emotion on how near you are to what is called the path of the heart. Among shamanistic cultures, another word for witchcraft, synchronicities are considered a kind of homing beacon analogous to something like a radio directional signal indicating the right procedures and methods that are being employed. A common sign of synchronicity, if any of you know anything about numerology, I'm not going to get into the specifics of each of the numbers, but certain numbers can correspond to certain messages. If you believe in that kind of thing, and once again, it's a pattern. Like seeing a number once doesn't really mean something. But if you, for example, see the number 1111 multiple times a day or every day or most days for weeks on end. You might want to look up what the meaning of that means, especially if a certain thing is running circles around your mind and you can't decide what to do, or if your brain's racing in an NITI loop to see if you're getting any closer to your goals. Synchronicities are never going to like flat out tell you what's going to happen. It's supposed to be a clue that you should pay attention to, and it should, be a part of the puzzle you put together to make your ultimate decision. Of course, logic is a part of that too. Your own intuition, synchronicities are just a piece of the puzzle. Uh, Two or more events, not connected through causality, but connected through meaning. They have personal meanings to you. There's no definitive way to say if something is a synchronicity or not. It's if it makes sense to you in that certain context, and what the causality between those two events means to you. This is just, a little brief video on synchronicity. I highly recommend all of you go deeper into it. I more or less wanted to give you the basics about it and let my fellow intuitives know that synchronicities are something that they should definitely pay attention to, particularly if it's in an event that's very important to you, and if these seemingly unrelated events seem to keep popping up and you're wondering if there's some meaning behind it. There is. And again, this is now video 11 of the 33 that I pledged to do this month. So please throw a 5 spot towards the charity, that I'm helping raise money for. Please, $5. I know most of you can afford it. All right. So I'm going to continue. 22 more videos to go this month. Thanks everybody for listening again. Always trust your intuition. Never sell out your integrity. And pay attention to synchronicities.